Good day to each of everyone, especially to Attorney Borcao. Ma'am, I am Joshua Emmanuel Alag Viral, and for today's presentation, I will be discussing two sections under Rule 119, the rule on trial. First is Section 23, demurrer to evidence, and the second one is reopening. So, let's start. Section 23, demurrer to evidence. A demurrer to evidence is actually a motion to dismiss that is filed by the accused after the prosecution has rested its case. Meaning, a demurrer to evidence is essentially a formal request made to a court asking the court to dismiss its case. And it is filed by the accused only if the prosecution has rested its case, meaning the prosecution has finished presenting all the evidence and witnesses to the court. After the prosecution rests its case, the court may dismiss the action on the ground of insufficiency of evidence. This can happen either on its own initiative after giving the prosecution the opportunity to be heard, and the second one is upon demurrer to evidence filed by the accused with or without leave of court. If the court denies the demurrer to evidence filed with leave of court, the accused may adduce evidence in his defense. When the demurrer to evidence is filed without leave of court, the accused waives the right to present evidence and submits the case for judgment on the basis of the evidence for the prosecution. Again, if the courts denies or reject a demurrer to evidence that was filed with court's permission, the accused can present their own evidence to defend themselves. However, if the demurrer was filed without the court's permission, the accused gives up the right to present evidence, and the case will be decided based solely on the prosecution's evidence. Next, the motion for leave of court to file demurrer to evidence shall specifically state its ground and shall be filed within a non-extendable period of 5 days after the prosecution rests its case, meaning the motion for permission to file a demurrer to evidence must clearly state its reason for the request and must be submitted within a non-extendable period of 5 days. When we say within a non-extendable period of 5 days, the motion must be submitted in a specified events or deadline, and this deadline cannot be extended or prolonged under circumstances. If you submit, if you file the demurrer to evidence above 5 days, it it cannot be uh, accepted because it is already exceed the deadline. It already the deadline has been end. Okay, next, the prosecution may oppose the demurrer to evidence within the prosecution may oppose the motion with a non-extendable period of 5 days from its receipts. Okay, the prosecution has 5 days from receiving the motion to respond to it. Okay, again, the prosecution may respond or challenge to the motion within non-extendable period of 5 days from its receipt. Next, if leave of court is granted, the accused shall file the demurrer to evidence within non-extendable period of 10 days from notice. The prosecution may oppose demurrer to evidence within a similar period from its receipt. So, if the court grants permission, again, if the court grants permission, the accused must file the demurrer to evidence within 10 days of receiving notice. Again, if leave of court is granted, the accused must file the demurrer to evidence within a non-extendable period of 10 days. 10 days of receiving notice. The prosecution, okay? The prosecution, then the prosecution has a similar 10-day period to oppose or to respond the demurrer. Okay, next. The order denying the motion for leave of court to file demurrer to evidence or the demurrer itself shall not be reviewable by appeal or by certiorari before judgment. Meaning, if the court grants permission, the accused, again, the decision to deny permission to file a demurrer to evidence or the demurrer itself cannot be appealed or reviewed by a higher court before a final judgment is made in the case. Again, the decision to deny permission to file a demurrer to evidence or the demurrer itself cannot be appealed or reviewed by a higher court before a final judgment is made in the case. There's no more appealed or reviewed. There's no more higher court to appeal. It's no more cannot be appealed or reviewed by a higher court when there's already a judgment to the case. Okay, again, a demurrer to evidence is a motion to dismiss for insufficiency of evidence. That is called demurrer to evidence. What I said last time, it is essentially a formal request made to a court asking the court to dismiss its case for insufficiency or lack of evidence, that is demurrer to evidence. Now let us proceed to demurrer of evidence in civil case versus in criminal case. So, question, where it can be filed. Okay, I'm really sorry because there's a typographical error. It is not filled, it is filed. Okay, where it can be filed in civil case, after the plaintiff completes the presentation of its evidence. However, in criminal case, when the prosecution has rested its case, meaning the prosecution has presented all the evidence and witnesses to the court. In both cases, it signifies that the formal offer of evidence or demurrer to evidence has been submitted and the accused has been given the chance to oppose to it or to respond to it. Okay, next. Is leave to the court important? Again, is leave to the court important? In civil case, no. You just file your demurrer to evidence. In criminal case, it defends. Again, in civil case, no. You just file your demurrer to evidence. You don't need to seek permission from the court to file a demurrer to evidence. You can file it directly. However, in criminal case, it depends. Why? Because of the two situations. First situation, if you obtain leave of court, meaning the court granted you or authorized you or gave permissions and you were not given leave, but you filed demurrer. Nevertheless, if your demurrer is denied, the court will already render judgment. Next, if you obtain leave of court and the court grants your leave to file demurrer to evidence, and you file demurrer to evidence and it's denied, you can still present evidence after. In the first situation, you were not given leave, but you filed demurrer, and your demurrer is denied, and the court will already render judgment. However, in second situation, you obtain leave of court, and the court grants her leave to file demurrer to evidence, and you file demurrer to evidence, and it's denied. You can still present evidence after. Next, what if the remedy is denied in civil case? Petition for certiorari if the denial tainted with grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack of excess of jurisdiction for as long as there was a motion for reconsideration. In civil case, if your demurrer to evidence is denied and you believe the court made a serious error, you can file a petition for certiorari. However, you must first file a motion for reconsideration before pursuing this remedy. In criminal case, you must file an appeal or even a petition per certiorari of a denial of demurrer to evidence. In a criminal case, you will have to wait until the completion or the conclusion of the main case. In criminal case, if your demurrer to evidence is denied, you cannot immediately appeal or file a petition for certiorari. You must wait until the main case is completed or concluded before seeking any further legal action. What if the effect is granted? In civil case, the case is dismissed. However, in criminal case, there is an acquittal. Therefore, it cannot be subject of an appeal. Next, note, the court can move for a demurrer on its own so long as it gives the prosecution a chance to be heard. The court can decide to grant a demurrer on its own, but it must allow the prosecution to present its argument before making a decision. We have a case here entitled Salazar versus People. In this case, the demurrer of evidence defines in this case. Okay. In criminal case, demurrer of evidence partakes of the nature of a motion to dismiss and the case for failure of the prosecution to prove the guilty of the accused beyond reasonable doubt. The demurrer to evidence is similar to a motion to dismiss, where the accused argues that the prosecution has failed to prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, and according to this case, where the accused files a demurrer to evidence without leave of court, he waives his right to present evidence and submits the case for decision on the basis of evidence of the prosecution. So, if an accused files a demurrer to evidence without the court's permission, they waive the right to present evidence, and the case is decided based solely on the prosecution's evidence. Issue: if the demurrer is granted and the accused is acquitted, what happens to civil liability? Held: if demurrer to evidence is granted and the accused is acquitted by the court, the accused has right to adduce evidence on civil aspect of the case. Unless the court also declares that the act or omission from which the civil liability will arise does not exist. Moreover, what the trial court should do is to issue an order or partial judgment granting the demurrer to evidence and acquitting the accused and set the case for continuation of trial for petitioner to adduce evidence in civil case. So, if a demurrer to evidence, considering that the accused has not yet presented evidence, it is wrong for the judge to rule on the civil liability of the accused when he was not allowed to present evidence. Means that if the demurrer is granted and the accused is acquitted, the accused still has the right to present evidence regarding any civil liability they may have. However, the court must first determine if the act or omission that would lead to civil liability actually occurred. The trial should issue an order or partial judgment granting the demurrer and acquitting the accused, and then set the case for the accused to present evidence regarding any civil liability. It is incorrect for the judgment to rule on the civil liability of the accused in a demurrer to evidence when the accused has not yet been allowed to present their own evidence. Next, okay, we are now in last section, the second section, which is section 24, reopening. At any time before finality of the judgment of conviction, the judge may motu proprio upon motion, with hearing in either case, reopen the proceeding to avoid a miscarriage of justice. The proceedings shall be terminated within 30 days from the order granting it. So, in section 24, the law allows the judge to reopen a case at any time before the judgment becomes final, either on the judge's own initiative or upon motion. If there is a need to prevent a miscarriage of justice, a hearing must be held before the judge makes a decision, and the judge decides to reopen the case. The proceedings must be completed within 30 days from the date of the order granting the reopening. Okay, that's the end of my report. Again, have a good day. God bless, and thank you for listening.